My name is Tony Faini, and I'm a business attorney here at Steptoe & Johnson out of its Morgantown office. However, today I'm happy to be speaking with you all on behalf of Morgantown Area Partnership as the chair of its Infrastructure Committee, a subcommittee of government affairs, as we kick off the first and hopefully annual Infrastructure Week. As many of you know, there has been a lot of news recently about investing in infrastructure, not only at the federal level, but at the state level and locally in the greater Morgantown area. And to that end, here we are going to be discussing the current and future state of infrastructure in Monongalia County. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to everyone for attending to support the event today. And second, I want to remind you that as we go through the panel, please do not hesitate to submit any questions that you may have through the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. And if you don't mind, please include your name so that we can follow up with you in the event that we run out of time. Now I will introduce the panelists. First, meet Ken Hacker. Ken is a senior engineer with the Morgantown Utility Board, where he has been since 2013. There, Ken manages the general MS4 permit and stormwater department. He has been involved with various projects across the Morgantown area, including stream restoration, flood mitigation, and sanitary and storm sewer replacements and upgrades. Every day, Ken works with contractors and developers to permit and ensure all current stormwater regulations are met. Ken, thank you for being here. Second, meet Michael Cronin. Michael is the district engineer and manager of the West Virginia Department of Transportation, District 4. There, Michael oversees all aspects of the design and construction of roads and bridges, as well as the maintenance and public and employee issues. After starting with the DOT as a bridge inspector, he has worked there for 20 years and in July of 2020 became the district engineer. Now, his goal is to unite individual organizations, including county commissions, to work cohesively for the betterment of the roads and bridges in our district. Michael, thank you for being here. Third, meet Josh Durrell. Josh is an economic development attorney with Steptoe & Johnson out of our Bridgeport, West Virginia office. Josh has a unique background as the former Deputy Secretary and General Counsel at the West Virginia Department of Commerce. There, he helped develop programs that he now helps clients take advantage of as they begin projects, including residential and commercial real estate developments, medical cannabis projects, and broadband development. Very few people are involved in broadband development like he is. So Josh, thank you for being here. Fourth, meet Russ Rogerson. Russ comes to us today with decades of experience working with local governments, nonprofit organizations, and private developers. After graduating from Bethany College, which is very close to where I grew up in Wheeling, Russ spent many years in North Carolina before relocating here in 2019 to lead the Morgantown Area Partnership as its president and CEO. And while I do not want to speak for everyone, I think I am not alone in stating that we are thankful to have such an experienced leader in our area. So Russ, thank you for being here. And last, but certainly not least, is someone who requires very little introduction in Morgantown, Mr. Glenn Adrian. Glenn and his partners in Adrian Enterprises and in Root Properties represent private development and are a large part of the community in Mon County. They own and operate the Morgantown Industrial Park, a 500-acre development specializing in industrial, manufacturing, and warehousing that accounts for over $62 million in tax-based revenues. Glenn's company is working with the Department of Transportation and other local and state development offices for the installation of the new I-79 interchange that would provide a direct access point to the park. The new interchange would open approximately 145 acres of expanded industrial sites, which have the potential to bring more than 500 additional jobs to the area and an anticipated economic impact of over $750 million through the next 10 years. Additionally, Glenn has been heavily involved in the community through the United Way, Mon General Hospital, and many more great organizations. So Glenn, thank you for being here. Finally, we are joined today by our moderator, Brian Gallagher. Brian is the managing member of Steptoe's Morgantown office, which recently moved to the new Westridge development. Like our other panelists, Brian brings decades of experience developing projects through the state and has been named one of the best lawyers in America for real estate law. As a result, when projects happen in Mon County, Brian is usually at the table helping clients to structure deals, finalize real estate transactions, negotiate leases, and coordinate all of those efforts with the various governmental agencies. And if you're wondering if I'm saying these nice things about Brian solely because he signs my paychecks, the answer is no. He truly is a great leader, and I think he's the perfect person to moderate today's discussion on the current and future state of infrastructure in Monongalia County. So Brian, as with our other panelists, thank you for being here. The panel is yours.
Thanks, Tony. And yeah, I'll remember you come bonus time. So appreciate that. So anyway, yeah, thanks everyone for taking some time to join us. Just a few introductory things about the discussion today. As a moderator, I'll try to bounce around and ask several different questions in your area of expertise. There's a lot to cover, so I apologize to the panelists if I kind of have to hopefully tactfully cut you off sometimes so we can hear from everyone, but we'll try to keep this thing moving. Hopefully I don't catch anyone off guard. To those in the audience, if you do have questions, please submit them. We'll try to get to them before we run out of time, because we're going to keep this to an hour. If we do run out of time, I promise we will respond and get back to you as soon as we can, and either follow-up phone call or shoot you an email. But so excited to do this today. A lot of, as we all know, there's been a lot of talk coming out of Washington, Charleston about infrastructure and what that means and how it gets funded and its impacts and what's going to happen. So I think it's a very, very timely topic. And so I think our panelists are well positioned to kind of give some unique insights on what we're going to talk about today. So hopefully everyone finds this very productive. With that, I'll start out with Russ. You know, Russ, you're fairly new to the community as compared to someone like me who's been here my entire life. So I think that, you know, you've worked in other states, other jurisdictions, other communities. So I think that gives you kind of a unique and hopefully maybe a little more objective perspective on Morgantown and the area. So two questions. The first one is just from your perspective, how do we measure up as far as overall infrastructure services in our community? You have any thoughts on that?
Sure. You know, first of all, we are a growth community. So in every growth community, there are infrastructure challenges because it's difficult to stay up with the growth and to be able to keep the infrastructure in tip-top shape. Secondly, we're a community that has the opportunity for revitalization. So with revitalization comes another challenge as it relates to being able to improve our infrastructure that in some cases could be, 80, 100 years old. So, and thirdly, we're a community that's expanding industrial opportunities. So they're yet again another challenge in the sense of sometimes the size and the volume of the infrastructure, and certainly the roads and the addition for better access. So in that case, we're quite similar. It's how you accomplish and overcome those opportunities is what makes local communities and states unique. And so I found, first of all, the people on this panel, I mean, we're fortunate to be small enough to be able to really work closely together and to accomplish things, but we're also challenged as everybody is with capital and the availability of capital to make those improvements.
Great. So what do you see as the biggest infrastructure need? I mean, if you had to pick one area where we really needed to kind of focus on, it's kind of a loaded question, but Is there one area where you see that consistently we need to focus on?
That's a difficult thing to say, honestly. We're very focused on roads, right? That's been a common theme throughout. But we're also focused in on, getting the water and the sewer to the right place. Those are kind of traditional infrastructure. I think broadband is probably the one that's been talked a lot about with not a great deal of activity, particularly here locally. And so, and I've got some information to share with you a little later in the program on that. So I see that as probably the area that we need to do the most work to establish, kind of a credible, reliable source and expand broadband throughout. While the other challenges have been challenges, ongoing, will continue to be, just because we're trying to continue to make improvements to our core base infrastructure.
Okay, thanks. Hey, let's jump into broadband. Josh, I know you spent a lot of time dealing with broadband, and we've all heard all the press releases, all the statements about significant funding coming for broadband, and but I don't know exactly how much money's actually been, forwarded yet. So, or how much we actually have, or what that looks like. So, you give us a little bit of an overview or an update on what's happening at the federal level and then at the state level to kind of facilitate development?
Sure. Thanks, Brian and Tony, and thank you also to all of our attendees. I think, in the interest of time, I can't possibly address all the different programs that are becoming available for broadband support, but I'll try to hit a couple of the highlights. It goes without saying that our federal government and our state, to an extent as well, are throwing a lot of money at trying to address the broadband problem in West Virginia. And how do you quantify it? Federal stimulus has created almost $3 trillion on a national scale for our communities, not all of which is broadband, but much of that money can be directed towards developing and deploying a better broadband system for our communities. The America Recovery Plan, which recently took effect, has earmarked quite a lot of money for West Virginia for infrastructure purposes. The state of West Virginia alone under that plan is going to take in almost $350 million. And that's for state and local funding. So our communities at the county and city levels are going to be infused with a lot of money. And Mon County in general, in particular, is going to receive over $20 million. Morgantown is going to get over $11 million. There's other non-entitlement units that haven't been specified yet. Those are our smaller communities, and that will come directly from the state. So other smaller municipalities across the county will receive more money as well as this program unfolds. In addition, you got the infrastructure bill that's being debated by Congress presently. Senator Manchin's very prominent, Senator Capito have very prominent roles in that discussion. And I think you'll see more money, as it relates to infrastructure and broadband in the pipeline and, direct to West Virginia. So quite a lot of money just on stimulus. That's not to say you've got other programs that we work with a lot with our clients. Reconnect Usda, which is a program through the Rural Utility Service, is a program that we've worked with several clients on. That is grant money that comes into rural communities that are underserved, and you go through a grant process. You can get a loan or a grant, and that is infusing some of our communities with a lot of money to build out broadband networks in our region. Let's see.
Josh, what did the state do? Pass legislation recently in the last session?
Yes. Yeah. House Bill 2002 is a piece of legislation our legislature enacted. The governor signed And it creates some new provisions in state law to facilitate broadband development. That's still developing, but it's very interesting. It added a lot of new provisions that address consumer protections, to expand on data collection efforts on, kind of quantifying what our broadband capacity is across the state in some of our rural communities. There's always a debate on whether you're served or underserved, and how do you make that determination, whether it's over built or not. And there's a debate about how that works. So that bill addresses that. There's efforts to coordinate with our Division of Highways, which maybe Michael can address. There's a lot of stuff in there. They created a new Office of Broadband. I mean, the state is really focused on helping our communities address broadband. But one of the things that bill does that's really important that a lot of people may not be aware of is that it provides specific language that authorizes the cities and the counties to own and operate and build broadband networks. They're kind of doing that to some extent already on some of these other programs, like that Appalachian Regional Commission has some money. Our development office funnels money from community development block grants that counties can use to build networks, and they're owning these things. But that bill, HB 2002, finally has language that says our counties and cities have the authority to own them, and then they can operate them. They can make them open networks, and it will, in theory, it's going to enhance competition, which will help build out our broadband.
Thanks, Russ. From a local perspective, what's our county doing? I know there's some activity there.
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, the funding, on the broadband side of things is very encouraging. But one of the things that we realize is that it's important to have a plan and know what you need and how you implement it. And I think that's critical, particularly with a lot of these funds, Mike. If you don't have a plan, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, then you can't access it. So Commissioner Sean Sikora of the county, identified, the need that we really don't have a countywide broadband plan. So, and you take a county in West Virginia, it's very diverse geographically, and sure, you can say some of the populated areas have reasonable service, but then you look at the Cheat Lake and other areas that may argue that. So the past few months, they went through a very rigorous RFP process, and just today chose a firm that will come in and put together an actionable and to some degree engineered solution of how to get what is the best method or methods to get broadband access throughout the county, and also in some of the pockets and the more populated areas that need to be addressed. So we're really excited about that. It may not be just pure fiber. It may be, 3 or 4 other methods, depending upon those challenges of that particular geographic area. I've been involved in communities that built their own fiber ring. I've been involved in communities that bought their own cable company, and each had varying degrees of success. So I think it's important not to be locked into one solution. I think it's important to have a solution that fits that particular area. And I really feel confident by the end of this year, close to the fall of this year, we will be able to present through the county a plan that does not incorporates Morgantown as well as all the outlying areas to what the broadband solutions are, and then associated costs, and then the ability to go after those funds to be able to execute that in a timely manner.
Great, thanks, Russ. So a little off script here. I think we got a really good question that came in, and it's just kind of get everyone's perspective on it. But the question is kind of, are we putting ourselves behind by focusing on broadband rather than kind of more generally fiber infrastructure overall? I think maybe sometimes those terms to the novice get kind of intermingled, right? And people don't understand the distinction. Any thoughts on that, or should we be looking at it more broadly than just specifically broadband? If
I may, broadband seems to be this overreaching word. That's the end result, is it not? Connectivity. The how is really what I was just talking about, this plan to understand. Is that fiber to the home? Is that microwave? Is that, repetitive cell towers? What is the solution given the purpose? And the key really is to have the level of connectivity necessary to make everybody functional in today's internet and broadband environment.
Okay, thanks. So, Michael, Josh mentioned the cooperation, I guess, or in the new legislation with the Department of Highways and those expanding broadband. And how do you go about that with new projects, not only with just broadband, but I guess also with all utilities? And how do you coordinate all that, and how difficult of a task is it to get everybody on the same page?
Always difficult to get everybody on the same page. Normally it's set up through the projects, but we also have individual permitting processes. We have a utilities department. Every utility company, including fiber optic, telecommunications, can go through our utilities department, utilize our right of way, and they get individual permits for work on our right of ways.
Okay. Glenn, jumping over to you on this specific issue, given just the development of the park, have you had challenges kind of coordinating all utilities? I mean, just getting them all to kind of work together and be on the same page, or has that been kind of the least of your worries in trying to get all the expansion done? So.
No, I think I appreciate the question and appreciate being on the panel. There's expansion, and then there's the expansion that we're undertaking in the park. I mean, as we have grown the park, I mean, the park is over 500 acres, but it's the West Virginia topography of, the flatlands along the river all the way to the ridge lines of, Mon Power substation. We go and then we basically come back down to I-79 on the western side. So, the coordination it just depends on what the expansion is. On the existing side, it's been a well-oiled. I mean, we've had MUG come into the park and take over the water and the sanitary. We've had gas expansion, natural gas. We've had fiber come in, multiple fiber companies come in and extend services into the park. And then on the western end, what we're doing is we're basically building another park. And that takes you to a whole different tier of utility expansions, of which have requires, very specific and different, and I think more broad-based engineering on behalf of everyone, including the Morgantown Utility Board on the sanitary and the water, Mon Power, First Energy on all the electrical services, and even expansion of natural gas. We're talking about significant upgrades on all those services, and I will tell you that it's taken a while, but the cooperation at all levels has been nothing short of tremendous. Taking on what we're taking on. I mean, I don't think even when we started this, and I think some of it is driven by the manufacturing facility that we're planning to have in the park. It is a huge consumer of utilities, and I think by virtue of that, it raised our expectations, or our unanticipated expectations of what it was going to take to bring all these sized utilities to that side of the park. But the cooperative level has been excellent.
Thanks. Michael, back to you. Russ had mentioned roads as an issue, and I mean, I don't think it's a secret. I mean, roads in Morgantown's kind of been a lightning rod, and it goes back to that perception of kind of where we are as a community sometimes. But it just seems like maintenance and expansion, everyone wants to talk about that all the time. So to start with, you're fairly new to District 4 at least. If you had to kind of look at the district and kind of say, well, what are the priorities? What do you think's kind of the most important, I guess, for the Morgantown community? Where do we need to be focusing on as far as roads?
Well, just from my perspective with Department of Highways, we have to get fully staffed. None of my counties are fully staffed from our orgs. We're 35 district-wide under quota. Morgantown itself, 7 under quota this period. That's a whole crew. That's a crew that can be out patching roads. That's a crew that can be out ditching. We're understaffed. We can't hire the personnel that we need to come in and do the work that we need to keep them on staff. Once we get them hired, then they go somewhere else. We get them trained up, we get their CDLs, they go somewhere else. So it's just hard to keep personnel in Morgantown. Long-term plan, we're trying to get a plan based on the current road conditions and the growth in the area to make a long-term plan based on current conditions and staffing in the area.
Okay, thanks. So, paving season's upon us. I mean, and maintenance are always concerns, right? Everybody expects their section of the road to get fixed immediately. And, I'm sure you guys are inundated with phone calls, emails, texts, letters, whatever, saying, fix my road. How's the best way for the community to kind of coordinate that with you?
That's easy. We have what's called the SWAT system, Safety with Action Today. Simply go to our website, get on the SWAT system, put your complaint in. We have 2 ladies here in our office that handle all the complaints, get them to the proper personnel, and we get you an answer within 7 days. We will follow up with that too. We tell you that within 7 days, we'll answer, say, hey, in 2 weeks, we'll be there to ditch. We follow up with that.
Okay. Another issue is just the expansion of, the Road to Prosperity projects, and there's several out there in the Morgantown area: Mile Ground, Greenbag Road, Exit 155. Any updates on anything?
Currently, all the projects are underway. The Mile Grant is underway. It has been awarded. We typically have holdups with the right-of-way, with utilities. We always work through those. We're working through those currently. The contract is progressing. We are working currently. We have crews up there. Exit 155, the latest update I have is that they're looking to get that out to contract later this fall. I don't know where that's at this time. I know there was a meeting last week. I could not attend. I'll try to find out more information, get it to you. Greenbag Road, that's been a big issue. That's the roundabout. It's right now, currently it's set to be let on the 28th of this month, provided there aren't any more holdups. Public input has been crucial on that project. I know a lot of people are unhappy, and we still have some right-of-way issues and utilities dealing with there. So,
I think everyone thinks, the governor announces we've got a Road to Prosperity project, and everyone wants to break ground tomorrow. So, that's not realistic. But what are kind of the major obstacles you run into in getting a project from its infancy to actually break ground?
Well, you always do a study. The study can range anywhere from 3 to 6 months, even to a year, depending on the complexity of the project. You hold public meetings, getting those scheduled and rescheduled, and trying to get all the people involved at the meeting takes time. Design study we go through, try to get as many iterations to get everything that the public wants and we need to do established in the plans, and what we want for the scope of the project. After that, just to make things simple, 1 to 4 years from time of conception till we actually break ground. Typical range depending on complexity of the project.
Okay. So what can we do as a community to kind of better, work with you and as a community, as a business community, kind of better share our vision with Department of Highways, so we can kind of eliminate hurdles or kind of move projects forward as quickly as possible?
The best thing, get your frustrations out at first. In the public meetings up front, try to get all your concerns. Hey, you're going to affect my driveway. What are you going to do? Try to get those concerns up front so we can act on those in the initial design. Every time we have to go back and redesign, it takes more time. So the better communication we have with the public up front, and different groups such as your own, such as Mr. Adrian up there, the more input we have from the community and fellow business people, the better off we're going to be and get our plans out in a timely manner.
Okay. Russ, are there any partnership initiatives to kind of help coordinate this and kind of move the dialogue forward with not only Department of Highways, but other utilities, other agencies too?
Absolutely. We have a transportation committee, and the Department of Highways participates in our monthly meetings, and really has improved communications. And probably where we need to improve upon that is getting that communications out to our memberships better, because we address a lot of these questions that you're talking about today. We get the answers and the updates, and in some cases, how can we help remove some of those barriers that come up on a project like this? So we're going to continue to have those meetings, and we look forward to being even more effective of helping the DOH communicate out what's going on, and then working with our governmental partners as well as the private sector to help eliminate some of these roadblocks that appear throughout a typical process of a road. So the better prepared we are as a community for them to come and do a project, the faster it can get done. Also, talking with the county commission, I was just talking this morning with them. It's important that we as a community do more of a single voice approach, so that we don't have some confusion and concern about what's the priorities of this community. And the MMPO does a great job of identifying through their processes how those work, but clearly then as a community focus on addressing those selected by an organization that is put together simply to get that priority list from the community to support the projects. And the more we get done, then the more we can ask for.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Russ. Ken, I haven't forgotten you. Okay. Always great to hear updates from MUB, and I know that MUB has some pretty significant projects ongoing right now, and I think the public probably thinks one of the biggest ones was the upgrades to the sewage treatment plants, which is a really big project and really critical to our area, and I suspect that a lot of people in the community think they've forgotten about it. So could you give us an update on kind of where that is and where we are with some other projects like the Coben Creek Reservoir? Or
sure.
Projects?
Sure. Yeah, those definitely are the two largest projects that we have going on right now. The wastewater treatment plant upgrade is approximately $85 million upgrade that is about 96% complete as of right now. It's slated completion date is April of 2022. They've got some, final smaller items that need to be cleaned up, sort of punch list items. But yeah, at 96% complete, it kind of looks like it's maybe setting idle right now, but there's still a lot going on behind the scenes to get everything buttoned up and that everything working underway. The Coben Creek Reservoir is approximately 65% complete, 110 acre site that is going to eventually have an earthen dam that's going to create a lake of approximately 50 acres in size, going to hold in the neighborhood of 370 million gallons of water that will be supplied directly to our water treatment plant via a 30-inch raw water pipeline that is already constructed and complete. The reservoir is slated to be completed and filled by the end of the summer of 2022. So they have actually started placing fill for the dam itself. There's a lot of work that goes into prep before that can even start. And that's the point where we are at currently is, we're weather pending, going to start placing fill for that dam and bringing that up to the design elevation soon.
Any other kind of expansion projects or capital improvement projects on the books?
Well, along with the reservoir project, that required a mitigation project that is going on currently in Preston County. We're actually drained a lake that was created by a dam that was deemed unsafe by DEP's dam safety branch. So we actually removed the dam, drained the lake, and we're in the process of building back about a mile's worth of natural stream and getting that put back. So that's not necessarily, Morgantown, but it's part of that project. And then also mentioned it was almost 4 miles of 30-inch pipeline that connects the soon-to-be reservoir to our water treatment facility. It will gravity feed water, straight to the water treatment plant. So that is complete and in place currently.
So something that's near and dear to your heart that I think the general population, general public kind of overlooks when they think of MUB, and that's stormwater management. Can you explain MUB's role in that and kind of what your jurisdiction is and how you what you do in that area?
Yeah, so we are an MS4 community, a municipal separate storm sewer system. So in addition to a sanitary sewer, we also operate and manage a storm sewer. We have an area that you can go to our website. There's a map that shows our MS4 area. Within that area is our stormwater utility. So through the utility, we provide the service of flood control via storm drains and working with all these different entities to make sure that stormwater is managed as much as possible. Then we also go through the permitting process for any development that's within our area to make sure that they meet specific criteria for stormwater runoff. So to lessen the burden of the runoff created from impervious surfaces, there's a lot of post-construction controls that go into place with new development, redevelopment projects that we make sure are followed and adhered to.
Okay, thanks. So Glenn, you're sitting back as a developer trying to pull all the people in this call together and trying to actually develop a project and come up with an end product that's really good for our community. And, a pretty big capital investment in a manufacturing facility and creation of a lot of really, really kind of high quality jobs. So, part of pulling it all together was where you're sitting. So what's been your kind of biggest headache in the whole process of trying to get all this done and develop a big manufacturing facility?
Well, I think I can best describe it probably as before this project, my hair, I had no gray hair. So now I need to color it, but I don't, it's, I go back to my comment before. I think a lot of it has to do, I think in this particular case, we are talking about a significant project, well over a couple 100,000 square feet, very, very technical in nature. I mean, it's sophisticated in its packaging. And so it brought with it opportunity, but with the opportunity, it also brought challenges. And, first and foremost, I mean, this company, I have to thank it for its stick-withedness. I mean, as far as working with, with our area, with the county commission. Russ has been intimately involved with this group for a long, long time. And so, understanding what their needs were and then starting to bring some type of game plan with that has been challenging. And and I don't think this is going to surprise anybody, but, one of the things that I think, lack, not only in North Central West Virginia, but I know in the state, is basically viable sites for large manufacturing. Our topography makes it difficult, because, you have to combine a site that's potentially 40 acres. I mean, we're talking about flat, a 40-acre flat site that has to have significant utilities that go along with it. And, in West Virginia, that usually requires a 2-to-1 conversion. It usually will take typically 80 acres of West Virginia property to create 40 acres of a flat site. And a lot of times companies come interested and there's nothing to show them. And so I know Russ, I know the county commission, I know the state development office. This isn't new to them, but there has been virtually little or no capital that's been available to develop sites so that when you have an opportunity like this, you can show them sites that they could potentially locate. And the problem with that is it takes capital to do that, and capital you have to be willing to risk and sit on, and it's expensive. We're unique at the park because we are a privately owned industrial park, and I would challenge you that they're very difficult to find privately owned industrial parks. Most are owned by development authorities, county commissions, nonprofit entities of that nature, because it makes sense, because a lot of them have access to grants, that help expand infrastructure to do site development and things of that nature. But I will tell you that the partnering that it has taken place in this particular project with Russ, the Morgantown Area Partnership, with our Mon County Commission, with the West Virginia Development Office, has been tremendous. This opportunity would not have happened without a lot of cooperation. It didn't come without its own angst, but again, that was something that everybody continued to work hard on, to be bullish about, and not give up on. And I think hopefully the fruits of everybody's optimism and labor is going to play out. But it's happening, and I think this area, in conjunction, and the other area that obviously that's critical for expansion is your intermodal transportation. We're very blessed in the park. We have barging capabilities, we have mainline rail capabilities, and we have somewhat interchange capabilities, but unfortunately the pressure of that, it goes through the city of Westover. And as we grow the park, that pressure becomes greater and greater, because we only have a single point of access, and it's basically 2-lane roads off of exit 152 off Interstate 79. Thus, and I think Russ can confirm this, that a lot of your interest, your industrial, your manufacturing, your distribution, the number one priority for them is access to interstates. We're uniquely located because we're only 1.5 miles from Interstate 68 and 79, but and we're hoping that the potential of the Harmony Grove interchange that would be built would improve all of those aspects, not just the access to the park and take the trucks, this public safety of taking those trucks out of Westover. It opens up also the potential of economic development, housing in the western end of County Route 45, which is River Road. All of those things work together. I think we're well situated in north central West Virginia, and hopefully this is the first of many additional manufacturing type of companies that will come locate here and also continue to supply well-paying, good jobs for our area. So
for Michael and Ken, so when projects like this present themselves, other projects, I'm sure your offices are constantly hearing about new developments, new projects, new opportunities. What's the process of prioritizing those, because there is limited capital, limited manpower, and how do you go through that process, and how can this community kind of help you go through that process a little better to kind of you can't do everything, but I don't know. Is there any insights on what you do internally to kind of figure out who gets the most attention? And I guess start with Ken first.
A lot of the way we function is sort of, we deal with them as they come in. And the earlier that you can get into our office and start discussing proposed projects, the better. Even if it's just conceptual, we can start looking at what the options will be. The developers can kind of roll those upgrades or those extensions that will be needed, into their plans, and we just try to stay in touch throughout the design phases of these things and see, what changes come up if we need to reroute things or, change our plan completely, or, it's just a good communication that definitely goes a long way whenever you get to the end point and want to build, whatever development it is, making that go, the transition smoother as you try to roll into construction.
Thanks. Michael, anything?
Ours is basically the same. It's first come, first serve in general, but we do have a commercial permits person here in our division here in District 4. He deals with a lot of developments on a smaller scale. The larger scale goes to Charleston. We have personnel in place down there. David Kramer does a wonderful job down there working with commercial developments. And basically, the faster you get it in, the faster we prioritize it.
Thanks. We actually have another really good question. Mon County's in the process now of looking at, well, the question is a lot of discussion about the updated county building codes, and the efforts the county commission is undertaking with that right now, and kind of how does that impact the overall infrastructure plan, either positive or negatively? I guess there's kind of like countywide planning help you or hurt you, I guess, from an agency perspective as to where you spend your money? Or does it help give you guidance or not?
Yeah, it definitely helps give us guidance. We meet with the county commissions. We try to meet more often. With COVID, of course, we were all delayed in getting our county commission meetings out, but we try here in District 4 to meet with our county commissions. We met with Preston County already this year. We met with Mon County, Tom Bloom. We just try to work with them and listen to them and try to get our viewpoint out also.
Okay. All right. Ken, any would that impact how MUB does things if the county adopts regulations?
I really don't see how it would change much of the way we do things. We serve so much of Mon County as it is that I don't really think it would change things. I know it has a little more emphasis on the stormwater side of things, but that is outside of the area that we currently regulate. Is where you would see the most changes. So as far as that goes, but really is from what we currently do, I don't see it changing a lot.
Okay. Hey, Josh, one of the, when you were in the Department of Commerce, you got to see how the whole state works and how local communities, what they did that was effective, what they did that wasn't effective as it related to state government. Anything we can do better from your perspective to get more for our buck, get more bang for our buck out of Charleston, I guess, and to just better work with state agencies, the development office, the governor's office. Any thoughts on that? Any programs we're missing that we should be taking advantage of?
Yeah, it's a good question, Brian. I don't think we're necessarily missing programs per se, but my takeaway from working over in the development office for several years was the counties that are prepared to answer, the call when they get a request for information on, what their properties are, what their assets are way better positioned to win that project. I think just having a general understanding that you're always in a competitive posture for these projects. And a lot of the people who make the decisions are looking for any reason they can to eliminate you. And, the sooner they can whittle down their choices to 1 to 3, locations, the easier it is for them. So it's really a good idea to be very prepared. So having a good understanding, as Russ was mentioning, I think, having a plan is really important. Having an inventory and an understanding of what your assets are and articulating what those are is really important. Understanding what your needs are. So if you have a piece of property, but you don't know what its limitations are, then it's very difficult to sell it to somebody to develop. So there are resources that are available for those purposes. Knowing who your contacts are at the state is good to stay in communication and dialogue with them. The development office is a free service. It's confidential, and they do great work. I'm sure Glenn could speak to that. People relying on people like Russ and his team is really it's what they're here for, and people don't always appreciate what type of value they can bring to the table, because it's usually a concierge type service, and everybody tends to be working towards the same goal. But if it's disjointed, as has been mentioned, it's not as effective. So there's lots of stuff you can do. There's lots of tools in the toolbox to address infrastructure, to address costs. There's grant monies, there's loans. So, not all counties are made equal, but having, I think, just that initial awareness, Brian, is what I would point to.
Russ, I know that's been something you've kind of focused on a little bit. Do you feel like we're in a pretty good place now as a community in our relationships with Charleston and knowing our assets, or there's still work to be done there?
We're getting there. Again, I think I've not run across anybody's development office is not most helpful. So, but as far as having sites ready, that's what we've been working on, and Glenn certainly represents a large quantity of sites, quite frankly. So while this one project we've been alluding to is good, it's great, but there's greater things too. So by creating additional sites, if we get the interchange right along the interstate, it won't take long for those are gobbled up by companies looking to locate in our area. We're also working on a 90-acre business park out by the airport, and that's a unique cooperation situation where the city needs to extend the runway by 1,000 feet, and the soils they need to build up that extension is going to create a 90-acre business park for us. So we're really excited about that. We feel that'll fit in a niche in the community that's not the typical heavy-duty industrial park. It's not what you see out at West Ridge. It's going to have its own place in the market, if you will, of sites available for businesses that are looking for bringing jobs and investment in. So we're getting there. I'd like to say here shortly, Glenn will say he's there, and then the 68 Commerce Park will come, most likely over the next year and a half. So excited about having those sites. If you don't have anything to sell, there's no reason to sell. And so we're going to have, I think, a nice lineup of opportunities for companies here in the next anywhere from the next 6 months to 2 years, and then that is very exciting. And the state gets excited about that as well, because they need them too. So, but we can't stop there, right? You just always have to be looking on the horizon. One of the first things I did was sit down with MUB and say, where are you going with your infrastructure? So you don't want to divert them from one section of the city over to another if you can. So making sure you're going with the flow with the existing infrastructure plans from be it Department of Highways or be it Water and Sewer, is extremely important, because you're also making it more efficient. Being efficient adds to speed, lowers costs, and makes us all better. So the more we're talking, the more we're planning, the more we're in tune with each other, the better off our community will be. And I'm super pleased by the level of cooperation and the assistance that I've received since I've been here.
Brian, he's being humble, if I may say so, because I've had, Russ, I said this in our little warm up the other day, but it bears repeating, is that the formation by the Chamber and the County Commission, the Development Authority, to form the Morgantown Area Partnership, probably the most critical, important decision that I think for economic development this area has made, this county's made. I can tell you flat out, we couldn't have done what we're doing without Russ and the partnership. And I will tell you that he may not hear it, but I hear it from even the West Virginia Development Office, how fortunate we are to have the partnership, to have Russ at the helm. They totally be able to speak with one voice, to have a conduit of connectivity to capital, to whatever grants may be available. They have been a critical part for everything that I know we have, and I'm speaking from our perspective, have been able to do. And I just think it will speak volumes to the future, that we can, the opportunities that we're going to have. And I think it helps having that one voice, that one entity. And I encourage anybody that has any questions, because I know our West Virginia Development Office, they're going to make one call, and it'll be to Russ's office, and that's where things are going to start. And coordinating with them is a key to our growth. And just one other thing, don't want to, going back to that point of capital, a lot of people misunderstand tax incremental financing, which we're commonly referred to the TIF acronym, but I will tell you that it is, again, it would have been impossible to do what we're doing, expand the park, without the cooperation of the county and the West Virginia Development Office through the tax incremental financing program. It's invaluable. It's really the only economic development capital program you have. You still take the risk as a developer, but you basically, by the growth, you have to be responsible. The growth within your tax base is what's used to fund and pay for water, sanitary, electric, gas, roads. It's the program that does that. And I know it's been very valuable in Mon County. It's been very valuable to us. It's a great program. It's a great program.
And I'd be mistaken if I didn't say, and a lot of people don't realize this, it's not necessarily public, but we talked about the one large project. There are two others that the state has come to assistance, and they're all going to get announced roughly in the same time period. But development office, both the WVEDA and the IJDC programs are putting forth some $20 million into our these three projects here, and they're going to create over a 3 to 5 year period of time some 200 jobs. So the state has invested in and will continue to invest in us, and we just got to provide them the opportunity to invest.
Great, thanks, Russ. So I'm down to 3 minutes. I do have one question here that is a good question. The question comes from someone who works for an environmental engineering firm that's new to the Morgantown area and just looking for advice to get in front of Michael and Ken and Glenn for the opportunity to bid on new projects, and kind of what's your process for that? I guess start with Michael.
Who wants to go first?
That you said with Michael, let's go this way. Basically set up a meeting with us. Let us know who you are, bring credentials. If it's consultant inspection services on some of the larger jobs, I'll have construction personnel here. You can meet and greet them. If it's design, you want to design some of the larger projects, just come and meet us. Bring qualifications to us. We can get it started that way.
Okay, thanks. Ken, any guidance?
Yeah, we any project that's going to come out for bid, we have it listed on our website at mub.org. There's also contact information there for all of us here in our engineering department. They could reach out to any of us and get a little more detail on how to go about that. But all that can be found on our website, or again, just reaching out to somebody here in our office.
Okay, thanks. Finally, Glenn, I think I know the answer to this one, but
call me.
Yeah.
We're available on the phone, but I will say on projects such as TIF projects, there's a very defined, specific bidding procedure. You have to do the 5G qualification bidding, and that usually is public and put in the newspaper, online, and those you keep your eye open for those particular opportunities. But other than that, it's just a matter of introduction and qualifications, and we go from there. We've used multiple engineering firms over the life of the park.
All right. Well, thank you. That takes us up to right almost 1 o'clock. So I want to respect everyone's time and very much appreciate the panelists' time for giving up lunch. If you know me, there's not much gets in front of a lunch, so we got to deal with that now. But no, I very much appreciate everyone's time and Tony's and by the way, if you notice, Tony and I look almost identical today as far as our we didn't plan that, I swear.
Brian, if I may, with the last 30 seconds, Glenn, Russ, Michael, Josh, and Ken, first of all, thank you. But if anybody was paying attention, almost every panelist mentioned the importance of planning, which of course is the perfect segue to Friday's panel. We have one more Friday at noon. Bill Austin with the planning organization is going to be running that, and Sean Sikora from the Mon County Commission is going to be in your role as the moderator. So very much looking forward to that. Obviously, the registration information is through the partnerships website, and the invitation goes out to everybody.
Morgantownpartnership.com.
There you go.
And I believe it just was posted to the chat room for this webinar, so you can register right there. So. All right. Again, let me wrap up here and thank everyone for their participation, and we'll wrap it up, and thank you for everyone's time today. Have a good one.
Pleasure. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all.
Thanks.